All right. Hope those tunes were all set for you to get pumped for today's session. I know I'm sure am. Welcome everyone to our August Live on ServiceNow HRSD Academy. Today is going to be all about employee relations. We have a packed content for today, so let's get started. Some housekeeping rules. We have saved some time for Q&A towards the end of the session. As we are presenting content for today, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel. We will not be monitoring chat. The presentation will be recorded and will be shared following the event. It will be available on YouTube, as well as if you have access to the event page, it will be uploaded along with the slide deck on the event page. I have pasted the link to the event page in chat. If you can subscribe to that event page, you'll be notified as the recording as well as the slide deck are uploaded. After the event, you will be prompted to fill a short survey. Please take a moment to fill this out. We definitely action on what we hear from you all in this survey. It can be in terms of how we improve this particular academy session for you, or for topics that we consider for our future academy sessions. So I request that you take a minute or two, fill this out, and let us know how we can improve these sessions for you. Safe harbor slide. As part of today's presentation, if we do make any forward-looking statements, either during the presentation or via answering your questions in Q&A panel, note that we request you do not make any buying decisions solely based off of those forward-looking statements, as they are subject to change. And introductions of today's speakers and hosts. I'm the one on the left. I'm Amrita Nayak. I'm a senior staff outbound product manager at ServiceNow. I work on products like Agent Workspace, Employee Relations, and other applications that come under our case and knowledge management umbrella of applications. And today I'm joined as a co-host and co-speaker by Mike. Mike, if you want to introduce yourself to the group.
Sure. Thanks, Amrita. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Mike Sheridan. I'm from the Product Excellence team. I'm focusing on more of our emerging products as well as Now Assist for HR service delivery. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike. Apart from the two of us, we do have several members from our product team as well as part of the panelist. They're here to help listen in on the questions you have, help with Q&A. So I want to take a moment to thank them for being here, staying up late to be participating in this webinar. Today's event is part of our Live with ServiceNow event series. The QR code on the screen will give you will take you to the event page where you can see what are the other Live on ServiceNow events that's happening in ServiceNow across, happening in other BUs across ServiceNow. I've pasted the link in chat as well if you are more comfortable with the link. And I also want to talk about our HRSD Academy sessions that happen monthly. We have a HRSD Academy article that the link to that I've pasted in the chat right now. We, as a HR product team, maintain that page. We publish the title as well as description of what you can expect in the next Academy session. Please leverage this to identify who from your organization will be best suited for the type of content that we are delivering in a given month. So bookmark this page. It's going to be very useful for you to make most of these sessions. The agenda for today, we're going to go over employee relations. What is employee relations? What is our offering from ServiceNow in this space? We'll look at a demo on a simple case management flow for employee relations, and then I'll hand off to Mike to walk us through leading practices specifically with employee relations security, and he'll also talk to us about other out-of-the-box features that we have. Before we start into the content, I'll launch a poll and request that you take a moment to answer this poll. Primarily with this poll, we're trying to understand who our audience is today, where you are with your employee relations applications journey. And if you're not using ServiceNow's employee relation application, are there any other tools that you're using today? The last two questions are not specific to ER, but they are more on our Now Assist for HRSD application. And if you're not using our application for Now Assist, if there are other company's application that you're using, do let us know via the short answer as well. In terms of content today, we have a good balance of of content for someone who's getting started with ER, talking about what the out-of-the-box features are. But if someone is already live, this content will still resonate because we're covering everything from when we launched the product till what we have released in our latest Yokohama features. So our content is going to be a mixed for both set of audience, and we're also trying to loop in leading practices in each slide as possible. I see that I'm getting responses on the poll, but I'll leave the poll open throughout the webinar and end it only towards the end. So you can take your time to fill out these polls, especially give us the tools you're using for questions 2 and 4. So I'll keep us moving. Let's start with understanding what employee relations is, right? You've probably heard this term a couple of times since I started the webinar, and it's time we put a definition to it. So our trusted source, Gartner, mentions employee relation to be a sub-function or department, usually which resides under HR or under legal in a given organization. If you look at the general tasks that this particular sub-function handles, it's usually workplace policies around employee conduct. It could be handling grievances or resolving disputes for misconduct like sexual harassment or discrimination amongst employees or between an employee and a management. Now, just understanding the definition, it tells us that employee relations as a whole is more complex than the regular HR cases that we're used to. Complex because it could involve more than one employee at hand. These cases are also very sensitive in nature because sexual harassment or misconduct cases can tarnish the image of the company as well. So this requires utmost security and sensitivity when being handled. What we aim to offer with our employee relations application is a standard process that employee relation cases follow. And this is primarily because it is the nature of the criticality of this particular ER case is handled well if there is a standard practice and process associated with it. We want employee relation agents to treat ServiceNow as a central hub for all activities that happen around an employee relations case. Now, for our offering, there are 4 phases or 4 parts that I want to emphasize before I go into the out-of-the-box features. First one is the flexible data model. So when you take an employee relations case, because it involves more than one employee, it's important for us to identify who's the employee that is the subject of allegation, who's the employee that is a witness in this whole incident, who's the employee who's the complainant. But it's important to have the ability to track each of these employees and then either interview them, gather evidence from them, and then have a corrective action against the subject of allegation. Our data model, which our employee relation application provides, is flexible enough to provide modules for each of these, be it allegations, involved parties, interviews, corrective actions in our data model itself. So this data capture is very seamless. Users that are not in the second system, this is the second one. So we've seen scenarios where when an employee relation case happens, there may be a witness who is probably a postal service delivery representative who is not part of the organization, but might be a key witness in an incident that has happened. Or sometimes the person who is not part of the organization could be the person who's experiencing that particular misconduct. So our application has the ability to create a case for an external open for, as well as interview someone who is not part of our system today. Third one, enhance security. Given the sensitive nature of ER cases, security being utmost important, beyond what ServiceNow provides as a platform and HR provides as a scoped application with its rules and ACLs, employee relation also brings its own set of security in terms of COE restrictions, in terms of a HR confidential group, and a concept called HR for HR, which is the ability for an employee relation, for the ability to handle a case which is against the employee relation agent. Mike will actually talk about the security aspect of it after our demo today. So I'm going to park that for Mike for a later conversation. And the last one being reporting and dashboarding, right? You're only as effective as the data-driven decisions you can take, especially with cases being this sensitive. Having a robust set of reporting and dashboards is really important for you to decide, oh, this particular location has a lot of cases coming in. Maybe this location needs a stricter policy, or maybe training of newer employees that's in this location. So that type of data-driven decisions can be handled with the dashboards and reporting we have out of box. In terms of evolution of our employee relation application, we launched it in 2020 and all the way till 2025, as of our last release in Yokohama, we've kept improving our product based on customer feedback and modules we think are essential to tie the end-to-end process of employee relations investigation journey or intake journey. So we started our 2020 with the data model as well as the modules for capturing the data. Then in 2021, we added interview management and evidence management, which are the two key aspects of any employee relation cases. And then we added Anonymous Report Center in 2022, which is the ability to submit cases anonymous to the agent that's working on the case. We also added a Navex ethics point integration offering out of the box and improved our employee relation offering in terms of usability enhancements. And the latest one is a release of a consolidated database view, which is to enhance reporting or to provide the ability for customers to build custom reports based on their organization's requirement. In terms of a typical employee relations case flow, our case intake is similar to all other cases, right? It can be any channel. It could be via phone. It could be via employee central, via a catalog. It could be an email. So the intake channel is similar to the other cases. Case reviewing, once the case gets assigned to an agent, the agent can review the case and identify each employee's involved party and type. And the two most important ones for employee relation cases is investigation and disposition, which is different from regular HR cases, right? There is a need for having robust investigation in an employee relation case based on which you will make certain decisions of how do I have a corrective action for the subject of allegation. And disposition is the part where you may have certain other departments where you have to share this particular case data for either audits or in the decision-making process. So having this disposition as a summary document is really helpful for you to share case data with other departments as well. Lastly, corrective action is based on any investigation that's happened for that case. There will be a corrective action that will be taken on that particular case. I want to emphasize interview management module specifically because this was introduced to bring more standardized approach to an interview that an agent conducts with employees. Sometimes it's easy to forget questions in the flow of discussion during the interview. So what our interview management module provides is the ability to have configured standard templated questions. You can see in the second screenshot, you can title them as, if you're interviewing an accused, you can have set of questions. I'll show you that in the demo. So an admin can configure these questions, and as an agent is actually interviewing the employee, they can leverage the standard set of questions and add them in the interview notes section. So they ensure every standard question is at least answered by the employee. The other piece here is with our interview management, we also allow for scheduling a meeting. If you do have our Outlook integration configured, then you will have the ability, the ER agent will have the ability to view the employee's calendar on Outlook and then schedule a meeting through our interview management module itself. But this is only specific to Outlook integration at this point. Next is our evidence management module. This is to standardize how evidence is captured with the interviews that are happening. Evidences require more security. We don't want anyone to be able to see this because this is very sensitive in nature and can tarnish an employee's reputation and image among their peers. So we want more security to this. So we have a separate module to capture the evidence. In terms of evidence types, we have these that we support. And these could be provided in terms of attachments or a URL. So if you have these evidences stored in a SharePoint or any other external place, you can store the URL to that location in our evidence management. There's also an ability to map the evidence to the interview where this particular information was gathered. Next, in terms of our offering out of box, we have summary report for ER agents and admins. This is the ability for an agent or admin to create a PDF file from 2 out of the box reporting templates that we ship. And based on the fields we have in the template, the data from our case gets mapped to those fields and it creates a PDF. This PDF can then be downloaded and shared with other departments or placed in certain locations for audit based on whatever the organization needs is in terms of disposition. Anonymous Report Center. This is our public-facing portal available for anyone to report employee relation cases anonymous to the ER agent. And when a user places an anonymous report, they get an option to download a PDF file, which provides them a secret key and the case number. And that document is very, very important for the user to be able to either follow up on the case or comment back on that case. And if that document is lost, there is no other way in which the user can access the request that they have placed. So we provide an option to download that PDF right away once the request is placed. The out-of-the-box dashboards we have are employee relations dashboard and employee relation executive dashboard. In the employee relation dashboard, you can see case volumes, be it in a given month. It could be in a given allegation type. It could be based on location as well as department. And clicking through these will give you the list view of all the cases, so you can then look into those and make your decisions. For the employee relation executive overview dashboard, we get more trends in terms of how are the open cases looking? Have they increased in the given time period? Have they decreased? Are cases past their SLA period? And also more granularity in terms of location. Apart from these two dashboards, we were hearing from customer about custom requirements coming up at their end from either the legal team or other teams saying, can we pull up cases for a given user? And earlier we did not have a way to do that. But given our Yokohama release, we've brought up this reporting enhancement, which is introduction of a consolidated database view, which brings all our employee relation tables together and creates a Cartesian product, so a view of this sorts. And anybody who's looking to create custom reporting can leverage this particular view and build their reports. One caveat here is because it's a Cartesian product of all the tables, you will need to make sure that your filter criteria are correctly set, so the data set you're looking at is apt to that requirement. So this has been introduced as of Yokohama. So this has been asked from a lot of our customers, and given Yokohama, they have the ability to do this. Last one before I get into the demo is Navex ethics point integration. Some of our customers use Navex today, but given how comfortable they are with case management in ServiceNow, we had an ask from them to create an integration to bring Navex cases inside ServiceNow for employee relation investigations. So we offer this out-of-the-box integration. It is a SOAP-based integration, which is bi-directional between Navex Ethics Point and ServiceNow. When the first pull of data happens from Navex Ethics Point, we bring in any case that is marked as open and active. And for subsequent pulls, we only pull delta, so only changes that has happened in those cases as well as newer cases. In terms of push back to Navex ethics point, it only happens on case closure. The idea is that the major chunk of case investigation and management happens within ServiceNow, and it goes back to Navex ethics point only on closure. There's also ability to bring in attachments from Navex ethics point into ServiceNow. That does require the use of mid-server. I won't go too much into the details of this particular feature, but I do have a product docs link, which will talk about how do you map fields from Navex ethics points to the fields in ServiceNow, as well as if you're planning to use attachments, bring in attachments, what configurability in terms of mid-server is needed, and how you can, you can configure how frequently the sync happens between, for the attachments between Navex and ServiceNow. So you'll have access to this slide deck after the session, so you can reference the product docs link if you're interested in this particular feature. Now I will head to our demo. So I'm going to share my agent workspace view. So this is going to be for an employee relation agent who is Isabella Ingress. And if you are not familiar with this view is our agent workspace. This is specifically our landing page. Once Isabella comes to the landing page, here she gets a quick view of what her day is looking like. So this tells her that she has two cases, that is SLA at risk. There's one case which is higher priority, and overall cases that she has in her assigned to her. And also at the bottom, you can see that across the particular company that Isabella is part of, which is Electri in this case, there are resources and quick links that can be provided to the agent in their frame of work. It so happens that the agent is always in agent workspace working on the cases, and having this easy access to either holiday calendar or if it's a tax season, W-2, these are very handy for the agent to feel empowered and supported in their frame of work. If Isabella is interested to know what her team's load looks like, she also has access to that via My Teams. There are a lot of advantages in using Agent Workspace, employee relations in Agent Workspace. I'm not going to emphasize too much on that. We have another webinar on Agent Workspace that you can leverage to see what Agent Workspace offers. But this is the employee relations agents landing page view. I'm going to now hop into an employee persona. Give me a minute here. So this is our employee center, which is also an employee portal, right? And here I've impersonated Emily Scoden, who is our employee, who has experienced some misconduct via her manager in terms of usage of abusive language or inappropriate language. And she's decided that she wants to create a misconduct request against her manager, and she's accessing her employee center to place that request. Now, if you do have Now Assist, there's a very nice, robust way of typing in the issue at hand, wherein an enhanced chat option comes in, makes a conversation with the employee, and then goes ahead and places the request. For today's demo, I'll not be using that feature because I want to show you the record producer we have or the catalog we have. So I'll go into Browse Human Resources as Emily. And once that loads the catalogs we have, there is a report misconduct catalog that we ship out of box with ER. And this particular catalog item can be used by Emily to place the misconduct request. You can see that if Emily decides that she wants the misconduct request to be anonymous, there is also that option that she can use to go ahead and use Anonymous Report Center instead. So I'll go ahead as Emily and I will place a description in the details tab where I'm mentioning that my managers used the abusive language in a meeting and I felt disrespected, and I also had some teammates in that meeting. I get the ability as Emily to add in the teammates who were involved. So I'm going to choose Maria Davis here, and I'm going to choose Able Tutor as another employee who was involved in that incident. And in terms of date of the incident, I'm going to choose something in the past. So I'm going to choose last week. And in terms of contact method, I'm not going to specify anything, but I'll hit submit. So this submits the case in ServiceNow for the employee relation agent. And as this gets submitted, it'll show you a page on Employee Center, which Emily can use to either comment on the case or add more attachments if needed. So this is the way Emily can engage with Isabella, who's been assigned that particular employee relations case. I'm not going to focus more on the employee part, but I'll focus more on the employee relation agent part. So let's go into the employee relation agents view. So this is back to Isabella, who's the employee relation agent. And you'll see that on the landing page, she has a new case that's come in by Emily. So let's say she decides that this is a priority case as well as a new case. So this is the case that she's going to work on. This might be a little slow. Please excuse the delay. All right. So now we see that this is the record page, or this is the case view of Isabella on the employee relation case. I'm going to collapse this case timeline for now, but I will visit this at a later point when we have more data. Now, Isabella has been assigned this case, so she goes ahead and clicks Start Work to get started on this case. Say for this demo, Isabel doesn't know how do I proceed with this case. So she knows that there is a checklist option available in Agent Workspace where she can see what are the things that are required to check off for this particular case. So she says that the first one is verifying that allegation records are created. So she understands that for allegation records to be created, she needs to first understand who are the involved parties. Based on the entries Emily made in the record producer and employee portal, we have 3 involved parties given Maria Davis, Emily, as well as Able Tutor. Emily has been marked as the complainant. And now Isabel has to identify who is this complaint against, right? Who is the subject of allegation? So she goes to the details tab. And in the description, she sees that the misconduct request was against her manager. Because she's in Agent Workspace, she goes to the at a glance panel. She's able to see that Emily's manager is Maria Davis. So now she understands among the involved parties, Maria Davis is the subject of allegation. So she goes ahead, places this type of subject of allegation for Maria Davis, and then now she understands Able Tutor is a witness in this whole incident. So she goes ahead and marks their type. Once she's marked this, she can go to allegations to create the allegation record. So in here, she will select the allegation types. We have a lot of allegation types that we provide out of box as well as subtypes, and you can create your own as it's been followed in your organization. For this particular demo, I'm going to select misconduct. And in terms of allegation subtype, I'll say other misconduct, and I'll just do test as description and save. So once I hit save, you'll observe that there's another subject of allegation tab that gets populated. In this case, there's only one subject of allegation. So automatically Maria Davis gets associated with this particular allegation record. But we do have the ability to have more than one subject of allegation in a given employee relation case. And in that scenario, you have to manually associate that subject of allegation to the allegation record. So once the allegation has been created, as per the checklist, the first step is done. The second step says verify if there is any other ER case for the involved party already. So we have an ER cases for involved party option wherein Isabel can see how many prior cases have any of the involved parties been associated with. So it looks like Able Tutor has been associated with one of the older ER cases, and there's also one case open for somebody else, but there might be involved parties from our current case in this particular case. So Isabel is free to look into these cases just to get a sense of who are the involved parties that she's working with. So I'll go back to our checklist that we verified if there are prior cases. And then the third checklist says to send a first response to the request and acknowledge the receipt. So because we are in Agent Workspace, Isabel knows that there is a response template that's configured, which can be easily used. And the case that Emily has created, there can be an acknowledgement sent to Emily saying, we've received it, we'll reach out to you if we need more information. So she completes the acknowledgement within 2 clicks. The next few set of checklist instructions says that you collect evidence records, you conduct interviews, and then map your evidence to interviews. So from the details in the case, currently there is no evidence that's provided. So we'll go ahead and look at interview scheduling. So in terms of interview, Isabel decides that she wants to first go ahead and interview Able Tutor, who is the witness. So go ahead and select Able Tutor. As an interviewer, it will be Isabel. And in terms of interview notes, over here you have the interview questions. And given that Able Tutor is a witness, Isabel can choose to append the standard witness-based questions into her interview notes section. So you'll see that there are standard set of questions that Isabel can use when she's having an interview with Able Tutor. So it gives her a more prepared approach to her questions that she's asking Able Tutor. And for the demo purpose, I'm going to say that this interview has happened on a future date, which is 16th, just so I can show you in the case timeline view how you can see what events are happening on this particular interview. So I'm going to save this. And let's say that as part of the interview, Able Tutor has provided some evidence to Isabel. So Isabel can create an evidence record, can say evidence against Maria. Evidence type says a screenshot. And you also get the ability to say who was the involved party who provided this evidence and what is the evidence source type. In this case, we'll say it's an attachment. It's a screenshot of conversation Able Tutor has had with Emily, mentioning that he was also disappointed in how Maria had talked to Emily. So let's say this is that screenshot, and then we'll hit save. Observe that the evidence record that gets created automatically has the interview record also synced, so we know which particular interview was where we got the evidence from. So now we have created we finished the interview. We have the evidence that we've grabbed from that interview as well. And now Isabel can look up what is our policy as an organization, what is our policy for an misconduct case. It can be any harassment-based knowledge articles that she can read. It can be other articles that she has around company policy around employee relations. So she gets access to knowledge article here. She can review those policies. And based on the information she has from her interviews as well as policies, she can go ahead and create a corrective action. In this case, let's just say this is the first time Maria has done this, and the decision is that Maria will be given a verbal warning. So we go ahead and say the involved party is Maria. The allegation against Maria is other misconduct. So note here, it allows you to still select an allegation, and that's because against one involved party, you can have multiple allegations as well. So at this point, there's only one in the demo, so we select that. Corrective action types, we go verbal warning. These are the 4 that we have out of box. You can create your own based on what your organization does. So this is verbal warning. And for the demo, we'll say that this is completed and the discussion has happened on 18th. The discussion was held by Isabel or anyone based on your organization's process on who communicates the corrective action. This is complete, and then you hit save. So this completes the whole case investigation aspect. The one thing I want to highlight here is the case timeline. Now, employee relation cases in general, they seem to run longer because there needs to be interviews done for each employee or involved party in question, right? And having a one case timeline view of understanding what's the events that's happened in that case so far is really beneficial. So this case timeline view will show you that on 13th, this particular events were created. Because we had interview selected for a future date, it shows that on 16th, we had an interview, which is closed, and any other event that happens on that ER case will reflect in this timeline. This is extremely beneficial when you're handling long-running cases. The other aspect I want to highlight is when you look at the details tab, there are fields called external opened for, which is the ability to accommodate for anybody who is not an employee of the organization and is just someone against whom the incident has happened. And also in interviews, there's an ability to select an external attendee in the interview, which will help you put in the external email address. So we have the ability to account for external users as well to make sure that the investigation as a whole is complete and we're not missing any areas of the investigation. The last one specific to the case form is the summary report. So I'll go ahead and click the summary report. This brings up 2 of the report templates that we have out of box. I'm going to select employee relation report template. You can see that based on the information in that case to the fields we had in the template, there has been a mapping done and a detailed report of this sort has been created. So once I click on generate, this generates a PDF document that gets associated in the activity stream. And from attachments, I can then download this particular PDF. And if my organization policy is to send an email with this to legal or place it in a particular SharePoint folder or any other location, I can do that with this. You can modify the report template based on your company's needs and then have a summarized report as needed. Next, I'll walk us through the reporting and dashboards. So this is Analytics Center in Agent Workspace. So Isabel can access Analytics Center to get access to the dashboard. The employee relations dashboard will have case volume specific to location, month, and allegation type. And each of these, when clicked, will get into the list view. So you can actually drill down each of these cases to understand why in a particular month is the case volume high, or you can make data-driven decisions based off of that. Say if it is a location, so you see that we have 41 cases in the United States of America, and that seems higher compared to the rest of the world. So you can go deeper into that, and then you see, oh, in California, it's higher. So you can go deeper and say which location in California has higher employee relation cases. And you can get data drilled down to your branch or your location. It shows San Diego has 23. So maybe it's a training that San Diego employees need to have, or policy that needs to be more advertised to the employees. So those kind of decisions can be made with this particular dashboard. Similarly, we have the Employee Relations Executive Overview dashboard, and it is more around trends and of open cases or past SLAs. Restricted cases are those cases that are very confidential. Mike will go over that right after the demo. So that is our dashboards and reports. One other piece I want to show is our consolidated database view. Given my instance is a little slow, I already have the tabs open. So when you go ahead to your instance in the modules type in database view, it brings in a list of all the database view that we ship. Under label, ensure to look up for ER cases consolidated view. This brings up the view that we've shipped in Yokohama. And the view looks like this. It is a join of all the ER tables that we have. And the last column, where clause, will show you what are the joins that we're using. And if you go ahead and try this particular consolidated view, it's going to give you a Cartesian product of this sorts. So when you do build your custom reports, ensure that you're using this database view instead of any specific table. And then your filter conditions are specific to ensure that the data set is curtained to the requirement you have. With that, I know I have 2 more minutes before I hand off to Mike. So I'm going to show you the experience for Anonymous Report Center from a requester view, right? So I'll go back to the employee persona. And this is employee center, and I'm still logged in as Emily. So say now Emily decides that she wants to go ahead and create an anonymous request instead of a regular report misconduct request. So she can go back to her browse catalogs, and in here she can look up for Anonymous Report Center. There's also a link to Anonymous Report Center via report misconduct, but say now I'm going to look up Anonymous Report. And this brings up the Visit Anonymous Report Center, which we ship out of box. Once you go to ARC, which is our Anonymous Report Center, notice that the employee, Emily, has been logged out. And this is done intentionally because we do not want Emily's information to get tracked via the case. So we log out any employee that is accessing ARC intentionally. And once Emily continues on this, she can go ahead and submit an anonymous report case. These options here are associated with our other better together like legal or health and safety. With HR, you get only these 2 out of box. Say, as a user, I'm Emily, but I'm just a general user now, right? So I'm going to select report misconduct. Here, I'm going to just say test. I will not get an option to select employees because right now I'm no longer an employee, or I'm not someone who's logged in. So the ability to look up the employees has been removed for security reasons. So all I can do is provide in text that it is Maria Davis, or more information in terms of text. And I give some incident date in the past. Where this incident took place, I given some information for now as Santa Clara. I understand that this is sensitive, and to ensure that there is no bots who are spamming our system with anonymous requests, we do have CAPTCHA. So once I put in the CAPTCHA and hit submit, this places the anonymous request, and you'll see that it gives me a pop-up which says that the request has been placed, but I have to download a report copy. So this report copy is where the secret key as well as the case number and the URL for the anonymous report center will be stored. So once this loads, anytime that this user wants to access their anonymous report, either to comment on the case to the agent or to see what's the status of it, they can access this particular URL. They will have to fill out the report number as well as report key, and only then they can get access to that case. So if one loses this particular PDF, there is no way in which one can get this access back. They'll have to place an anonymous request again from the portal or from the ARC portal. Now with that, in the interest of time, I'll end my demo here and I'll hand off to Mike to walk us through the leading practices around employee relations security, as well as the other out-of-box features. Over to you, Mike. So Mike, I can see your screen. And I see that you're on mute. Right now, if you want to switch to the slide mode, this is in presenter mode.
All right. All right. Just having an issue with the share. So
Would you like me to share, Mike?
I could share.
You're good? Okay.
Hopefully you could see
Yes, this
my
looks
screen
good.
now.
This looks good. Yes.
Okay. That's just technical difficulty. So we're going to keep on rolling with COE security. So there were some great questions that came up in the Q&A around enhanced security for ER. So for those that are familiar with COE security, probably some familiar topics we're going to talk about. For those that are new to COE security policies, will understand how it interacts with HR and the different types that we have for COE security. So what I'm showing on my screen now is something specific that's to employee relations, and that's our case restriction. And what this does is it's a little bit different from a COE security policy where it locks it down even further. So in stating that, I'm going to take a step back and explain a COE security policy itself. So within the HR module, within any of the HR tables, we have the ability to write a COE security policy that locks a case down with some conditions, certain HR services or all of our HR services to a specific group or groups. So if I only want one group to be able to see ER cases that are accommodations, I can lock it down to where only the ER accommodations group can see those type of ER cases. So that's one way to lock it down. Something to think about when you're writing those COE security policies is that the open for, there's people that can still see that case if the open by. So if I'm the agent that created the case, but it's assigned to another group, the COE security policy still allows me to see it. And again, there's a difference between the COE security policy and the case restriction configuration that we configure in the same interface. So it makes sense to draw the differentiation between the two so you understand what a COE security policy is in relation to the case restriction. So moving on to the case restriction, this allows us to lock it down to just the group that has or that's been specified in the restriction. So in this image, you can see that I'm restricting cases, and only the HR confidential group is able to restrict those cases as well as view those cases. So it's not like we want everybody to be able to restrict cases and then they're not able to see it. So maybe it was a mistake. I restricted it by accident. Now I'm unable to see it and I have to reach out to the group that has permissions in order to see it. The reason being is not just for an HR for HR use case, but it may be a use case that we want to lock down to everybody except that group. So it's the extreme lockdown that we do for a case where we mark it as restricted. Only the HR confidential, as we have configured in the image, is able to see it, and nobody else can see it, whether you're the open by, the open for, the subject of allegation, on the watch list. It just restricts it to everybody. So that's the difference between a regular COE security policy and the HR case restriction or case confidential functionality that we have. So this is the enhanced security that really is a deeper level of restriction outside of the normal COE security policy. So in stating that, there's also an HR for HR use case that we're trying to address. And the example would be is that maybe Amrita and I are on the same team and we both work ER cases. And I happen to say, I happen to harass Amrita. Of course I wouldn't, we're like family, but, for sake of argument, I may have harassed Amrita and she submits a case with me with the subject of allegation. HR of old, I was able to see all those cases that were assigned to my group. But being that I'm on that involved parties list, especially that I'm the subject of allegation, that case I'm restricted from. So even though it may be assigned to a group that I'm a member of, with me being the subject of allegation, I'm locked out of that case wholly. I can't see any portion of it. So for that HR for HR security, which is, I think, a use case of all of our customers that are doing ER, we just want to let you understand what roles can see what. If I'm not the subject of allegation, but maybe I just opened a case, what am I able to see? So in opening a case, you're already allocated as the complainant. So if I'm an ER agent or if I'm a regular employee, I would have limited access to the case. Basically, I'm seeing the fields as read only, and I'm restricted from seeing any of the related list items. So I can't see the involved parties, interview, evidence, corrective actions, accommodations, any of those related list items that we have in the ER case. The ER agent will have limited UI access. So some of those UI actions I may not be able to engage because of my restrictions. We accommodate for assignment rules that it would not automatically assign the case to that ER agent. So it's logic we have to have, because obviously I don't want to assign a case where I'm the open for, or maybe the subject of allegation, or a witness, or any other involved party for that matter. If an ER agent is added as an involved party, he will not have access to the ER case at all. So we accommodate for that, like on the watch list, they're collaborators. So, there may be times to where, we have workflow that automatically adds people to as a collaborator. Well, that person may also happen to be a witness on the ER case. So we're going to want to restrict them. The out-of-box workflow will do that for you. So it's things that we've accommodated for in the product that you don't have to worry about. And then lastly, if the ER case is restricted, so it's locked, it cannot be viewed by any of the ER agents if they're the open for subject person, even if they're under the case restriction configuration. So in those cases, HR for HR also apply to those case restriction records that we have. So a lot of locking down that we do depending on roles within that case. So what I'm trying to do here on this slide is just giving you some more details about what's visible to individuals or roles on that case at any certain time. So what's visible to the open for? So even when it's an AR agent, the main fields are read only and you won't see the related items. So I could see the case, but it's locked down. And then the role of the subject person versus the open for on an ER case. And this goes into more explanation because essentially we don't use the subject person field on an ER case anymore. If you look at the out of the box ER cases, you'll see that they'll hide the subject person field when you select an HR service that's in the ER Center of Excellence. So subject person, for all intents and purposes, in an ER case is gave way to what we call the subject of allegation. So in the related list, whoever the subject person is, being that persona, is identified by the subject of allegation. So it's not common that we use the subject person field for an ER case when we're creating. And in the demo earlier, you saw where Amrita created the subject of allegation. And then if you have multiple, you're able to add multiple. And it kind of gives reason as to why that subject person field is not being used in ER. Are interview and evidence visible to the open for? So again, the related list items are locked down to the people that are in the open for. And then lastly, what's visible to the collaborator or watch list? Well, on a normal case, I could add somebody to the watch list and they're able to see the case. Same with the collaborator. If I have somebody as a collaborator, they're able to see details of that ER case. And the difference between the two is collaborators are going to look for that ER role in order to add them as a collaborator. The watch list doesn't. So I could add a manager, a subordinate, whoever the case may be, to the watch list. But keep in mind that when we lock it down case restriction, regardless of who the collaborator or watch list individuals are, they're going to be locked out, as well as any collaborator member or watch list member or people that are on the list. If they're part of the involved parties, they're a witness, subject of allegation, etc., it's going to lock them out of the case. So we have those hooks in place to not allow them to see the case. Okay, moving on to accommodations. This is just a feature we released some time ago, but there's been a lot of questions in the community as well as reaching out to the different teams. Accommodations are records that we can identify when there's accommodations that are part of the ER case. So for all intents and purposes, we could have multiple per ER case. So it may be an assignment that also has an accommodation type of certain types of equipment. So these are records that are children for all intents and purposes, but they don't have separate assignments, based on being a separate record, like it would another child case. So accommodations are part of typically an accommodations ER case and are intended for, record keeping and tracking based on when the start date or end date of that accommodation is. And it's also things that we can report on. So really to complete the ER accommodation use case is functionality that we're trying to bring to light to get more adoption. Another feature that we have within HR service delivery are the guided tours. So there's times to where we're implementing a new process in ER, and we need to be able to walk agents through, that process. Guided tours are great for that. Even for employees that are brand new, it's kind of a training aid to show what our process looks like. So I would encourage you, and not just with HR, the platform as a whole, to explore those areas that you could use guided tours in order to signify or do some type of interactive training for any of those processes or new functionalities that you introduce. So going to our resources page, there's just some links that we're providing for more information specifically for ER with the Anonymous Report Center. So there was a live on service webinar for that feature specifically. We would encourage you to follow that link. We have an ER requirements product workbook within our Now Create, as well as a process workshop and process guide. And when you're implementing ER, for those that are implementing, these are great tools that you could find in our Now Create site to help you guide and gathering those requirements, pointing out the things that you need to talk to as you're implementing your employee relations application. So given that, I'll pass it back to you, Amrita, but thanks everyone for your time, and welcome back for those the names I recognize. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Mike. We are answering the last question that we've received. I guess there's one more question that we've received, but once we finish answering the question, we will end the session. We'll hang in there for a couple of more minutes before we end the session. But thank you for everyone for joining. Our next session will be in September. We will be looking at what's new in Zurich. So please do join us back in September for what's coming in Zurich.